Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to this community showdown. It's going to be the Empire led by Driver and Balthazar Gelt facing off against the Tomb Kings, who are going to be led by Arkan and Dim here on the Jade Tomb. And let's go ahead and break down these armies. Now for the Sons of Sigmar, probably the most cost-effective unit of the roster, the Humble Spearman with the Shield. This bad boy, for a very cheap price point, does have really good holding power. 42 melee defense is nothing to sneeze at, nice little anti-large as well, and obviously they're not going to win any beauty contests against enemy infantry, but they can hold and let your other units do their job. Hammer the Witches is a good choice, always been pretty good against Tomb Kings. You can use this against their Ushapti, against their Horsemen, against their Ushapti Grapos, Sphinxes, whatever. It can usually outtrade most of the Tomb King ranged assets. A little bit tricky to protect against Carrion and Horsemen, but if you can, it can pay dividends. Now, the one part of this build that to me is very hog wild, but I'm curious to see how it does. He's kind of doing like a loose armor check against Tomb Kings with a bunch of greatswords. I think he has like 3 or 4 in total. Now, normally Tomb King's infantry kind of just suck. They don't suck, but they're not like something you worry about in this matchup, right? You usually just bring like a Burning Head caster, and if you see any of them look at you funny, you just use Burning Head and then they're gone. But greatswords will dominate the infantry fight, obviously, with their armor, but they're going to get countered hard by the mass Ushapti over here, potentially. But again, the Ushapti can be taken down by cannons, some of the other tools. Really curious to see if the greatswords are effective, and I hope they are. It'd be a really cool innovation. Cheap Empire Captain. I've done this before. I like it. He literally costs 350 gold, and you just send him in and let him fight an objective with the Chad Witch Hunter back here as well, with the Grim Resolve. So when he's in melee, he's going to be giving ITP to the boys. And yeah, very interesting build here. And of course, Final Transmutation, who doesn't love that? For the build here of Dim, it's going to be Arkan the Black, who has brought a ton of spells. Looks like he wasn't sure which ones he wanted. He got Spirit Leech and Purple Sun, Doom and Darkness, and Aspect to the Dread Knight. So what is the relevance of these spells here? You know, Aspect to the Dread Knight against Empire isn't bad. Doom and Darkness is okay for overcasting and breaking a position. Purple Sun and Spirit Leech probably are the most effective spells here, but curious to see how he uses them. We do have a battle line of skeletons, Carrion, and an Ushapti rush. And I would imagine out of the gates, the Empire player was like, really? You're going to come bring 4 Ushapti against me with my greatswords? Tomb Scorpion also. Okay, I'm already starting to like this Tomb Kings player. Tomb Scorpions, I think, are not very good, but man, oh man, are they cool. And it's unfortunate because in tabletop, Tomb Scorpions are like one of the best Tomb Kings units. They have a rule in tabletop. So there's 2 separate rules. There's one called Killing Blow, and there's one called Monstrous Killing Blow. I can't quite remember if that's the name of both of them, but essentially, if you roll a 6 to wound with a Tomb Scorpion in tabletop against an infantry unit, or a monster even, it instantly kills them. They just get taken out. They don't get to really make any saves, except I think a ward save or something. So they're really crazy because they can like insta-kill a dragon or insta-kill like an infantry character if they roll hot enough, whereas in this game, they just kind of don't do either. They're just kind of sad and... dude, if they gave Tomb Scorpions the Dreadmaw ability, they would suddenly see play. And if they could like unburrow and walk around too, I think that would make them very unique. And they could just like leave their lackluster damage output as it is. But if they gave them that burrow, I think it could be a bit of a different game. Anyways, rant for another day. Skeleton Spearmen are here, and the Ushapti are lurking in the back. And we do see the big Bone Daddy line advancing on the Empire. The Empire's magician is, of course, Balthazar Gelt. So no burning heads here. On the flank, Skeleton Horsemen going to be coming around the back, while we do see the diving Carrion getting on top of the Hammer of the Witches. And Empire Knights will not clear Carrion super quickly due to the Carrion's 46 MD, but they do get rid of them here, you can see. If those had been like, you know, Black Rose Knights or something, it'd be much quicker. But even still, the Carrion suffering from the charge bonus, and it looks like those Empire Knights are going to get the job done. But Ushapti charging in, unfortunately for them, they do engage with spears, which is not what they want to be doing. They need to make sure to get on the greatswords. That's going to be a big one. But yeah, battle lines clashing on pretty much every front. Greatswords here are going to be engaged against Skeleton Spearmen, and that is one thing that, if you are watching this back dim, you definitely would want to make sure that those Ushapti are all up on the greatswords. You have done a good job here with the Ushapti being on those, but them being on the spears, although with the Skeleton Spearmen, it's not the worst idea in the world. But yeah, just waiting and finding those greatswords is going to be the most important thing. So, Final Transmutation going down on Arkan the Black. A good cast there by Driver. Very nice. Going to be hitting the Ushapti, some skeletons, and also nailing Arkan the Black down. But nice play here by our Tomb Kings chat. Able to get the Tomb Scorpion back here and get the Skeleton Warriors on top of the Silver Bullets. They're going to be drained down. And Arkan is now going to be going to try and compromise the cannon, the Hammer of the Witches, but the Knights of the Blazing Sun have arrived. A unit I do like in this matchup. The fire damage is relevant, and they look really cool too. So it's just, you know, totally farming the style points there. Frontline fighting, though, those Ushapti are doing work, breaking through some of the Spearmen, now going to be engaging against the Greatswords. Arkan the Black, though, getting his salad tossed here a little bit, getting shot by the cannons, and is going to need to find a new home, but we do see double Carrion coming in, and Driver does not currently have enough to summon in a knight to deal with this. So he might be losing his Hammer of the Witches, and this could suddenly become kind of a dodgy situation. Beautiful purple Sun by Dim, really, really nice, hitting the greatswords and those units. And the Army of the Dead continues to march forward as the Tomb King's able to annihilate these state troopers with the magic of Arkan. While on this side, these Ushoptian spearmen are fighting a bit of a hard fight due to the Empire captain, but even still are getting the greatswords down. So a game that was looking a little bit tricky for the Tomb Kings out of the gates has suddenly gotten much better for them as they take down the Hammer of the Witches. Silver Bullets are in a precarious position. And this is a big old Bone Daddy Ushopti rush, man, and it's not doing badly. Yep, he's been finding the Ushopti versus the greatswords as this game has gone on. He's been doing a very good job of that. It looks like an Ushopti summon is going to be used on the Knights of the Blazing Sun right here. So, not bad. You know, it could potentially pin them in place. We'll see how effective it is. But I would imagine the Blazing Sun Knights will be ordered to retreat here relatively soon because this is dodgy. Now, in my experience in this matchup as somebody who plays a lot of Empires, typically you do get pushed back. The Tomb Kings are usually utilizing a stuffing strategy against the Empire. But in the late game, the Empire can come back after value trading and, get back in the game. And the one thing Driver has done a very good job of it, he hasn't lost his home objective. He's been able to hold this down. But I love the Necrotech here. Very, very nice. He does have the Van Braces of the Sun, which is going to be lowering melee defense and melee attack. A very meta item here on this Necrotech. And Homeboy's just loving his life. Yeah, able to really wreck those greatswords. Look how brutal that is, putting their stats down to 7 and 6 respectively. I mean, that is incredibly devastating. But the Tomb Kings player really needs to focus on getting this objective to stuff out the Empire player, because it might seem like you're winning, but since the Empire has the home field advantage, they're summoning in reinforcements on your aggressive units, right? Whereas your stuff has to run from across the map, so it can get a little bit precarious. Sterling's Revenge called in, but immediately going to be rode down by Skeleton Horsemen. Now, in straight combat, the Sterlings will probably win that, but they're going to be taking a lot of damage, and if anything else gets involved in that fight, they could end up losing it. Here on the backside, Empire Knights and Blazing Sun Knights are just doing their best to clean up all the gremlins in the backfield, and there will be a bit of a momentum shift when the Ushopti do run out of steam here, when the Unsummon does go away. It's going to be taking away some of the false inflation on the army, and now we do see the Tomb Kings going for the Imperial home objective, which is definitely the way. Against Empire, typically, especially with a build like, quad Ushopti opening, you're going to want to stuff them back and really, really get up on those points. So again, what most Tomb Kings players will do, open up super aggressive, triple cap the Empire in the mid to late game when they start to lose out on value. Potentially, they might just win, but if they are losing out on value, they spam out Light Horsemen and Nehekar Horsemen just to target the objectives, and then they usually try and win on points. But yeah, because now the Empire is getting a bit of a rally. We do see the Demogryph Knight Halberds coming out. Balthazar Gelt showing this nerd who's boss, and it looks like the Necrotech going to be coming in to attack Gelt. And Arkan is a much better fighter than Balthazar Gelt. He's actually pretty respectable. He's got 450 weapon strength and a really, really good stat line as well. So Gelt, kind of in the wrong neighborhood, and is going to be wanting to flee away here. Oh, but the final transmutation could clutch it. That could be really big with the Demi-Chads coming in, and that is going to be nailing Arkan really, really hard, and he's probably going to go into the trash can. The Demogryph Knights on top of him here, him and the Necrotech could be going down. That could be a devastating play. Arkan needs to get away. Dim needs to just hide him in the bushes, straight up run to the other side of the map here and just not let Arkan die, because negative 16 leadership will make your army crumble so much quicker. But the Empire now managed to get objective 1, the Chad Witch Hunter helping out here, and the Witch Hunter does do decent armor piercing damage with this pistol, although he's obstructed right now. Yeah, there's a lot of jankiness in this game with obstruction. That's something I really, really hope they get squared away for 40k, because 40k is going to have a lot more shooting, and if we have, imagine a Space Marine squad just, standing behind, some Imperial Guard and not being able to shoot over them into, a bigger threat or something. That's going to be such shit. So hopefully they can fix that. Hopefully they can. It's been something that has blighted this game for a long time, but it's not as big of a deal since shooting is, a little bit more classical, needing to create lanes of shooting. But in 40k, you really got to have that shit hammered out. So Tomb Kings are going to fall back to their Helm's Deep, and we're going to see if they can value trade their way back. Nice purple sun right there, won't you come, and absolutely obliterate these flagellants. Here comes the Tomb Daddy, the Scorpion's on his way in, and does get a nice little attack into the flagellants there, who are basically deleted from the game. And now we might see a little bit of a ninja cap, right? Have the Empire gotten a little bit too crunk nasty here? Have they advanced up too quickly when the Tomb Kings still have pressure on the backside? Find out on today's episode of Dragon Ball Z, as Ushopti are now being called in, and Acropolis Knights fighting with the Ushopti Greatbows back here. But this is a huge pick. Losing the Ushopti Greatbows when they're going to be your mid-game carry piece is pretty devastating. And Ark of the Black is also going to be going into the trash can right there, which is going to be incredibly tough to recover from. As we look around the battlefield, we do see complete Imperial control over here as Flagellants do arrive. Ushopti, of course, will do well against them, but with 2 Imperial characters, they should be able to beat those guys. On the back point, Flagellants arriving. They will provide good capture weight, but still something needs to be dealing with that Tomb Scorpion. But 2 Skeleton Spearmen, basic Spearmen of the Empire, will be able to mitigate the effectiveness of that Scorpion. And how's this looking? Necropolis Knights not doing a bad job, man. They are scrapping pretty hard here. You know, it kind of looked like the game was going to be over there for a second, but we still have a couple pockets of resistance for the Tomb Kings, and they do have a bit of a cushion as well. Melee Shopti coming up. Necropolis Knights able to drag down these Knights of the Blazing Sun, but really, if he can keep these Ushopti Great Bows online, maybe Homie is going to be able to figure out a way to start to value trade back, because those Ushopti Great Bows could start melting Flagellants. There's also a Tomb Scorpion on the battlefield, which is going to be a menace as well. The Necrotech and the Tomb Scorpion probably want to escape this combat and run back to the mainline army and create a Death Star. The Necrotechs do really well when they're stacked with infantry, but isolated on their own, they're pretty squishy, honestly. Their stats are really, really low. More Melee Shopti on their way out, guys. Necropolis Knights with Halberds are going to be surging forth, and the Tomb Kings are coming for blood, man. Although, Null and Ironsides, I love the Null and Ironsides. A unit I think that's really grown on me. These guys, I don't know why there's like random blood flying out of them. That was kind of a weird thing. Did they lose any HP or anything? I don't think so. It's kind of weird, but... yeah, they're going to try and shoot that Tomb Scorpion, but they're a little bit obstructed by this hill. And sometimes powder in this game can be very fickle, like I said. And you see this hill is going to be causing some issues. So they would want to either run up on the hill or relocate over here. But even still, they can... Some of them can get line of sight, but immediately the Ushopti Great Bow is going to be zeroing in on them, while the Necropolis Knights and Ushopti getting a nice little counter push over here. Flagellants will endure for a long time. These are Halberd Necropolis Knights, so you'll notice that they only have 25 melee attack here. So they're going to be kind of wimpy against infantry units, because they just 25 melee attack is like the same amount as like a sword. It's less than a swordsman unit, right? So their actual hitting and connection is going to be lackluster, but Melee Shopti will not have that problem. These guys will do some work, cut through a lot of these units, and looks like the Empire are going to be getting some nice powder fire. Powder ready to go, General. Powder dry as the Null and Ironsides plant their feet down and are going to be ripping some shots for the Dark Lady of Nuln, and certainly doing the Empire proud. Scorpion does fall. Nice pick there. Pretty important. Empire are going to be very safe on this back objective, and now they just need to kind of hold a little bit longer here. Carrion called in, obviously, to go after the Null and Ironsides. Melee Shopti have always been kind of a tricky point for the Empire. Granted, your Shot Cav can fight them because, you know, Melee Shopti here have the same problem as, like, the Necropolis Knight Halberds. They're really good against infantry, but really subpar against bigger stuff. With only 23 melee attack right now, going to be kind of wimpy. Balthazar Gelt telling him you'll never move again. He's going to be turning a statue into gold here, and it does get a lot of melting damage on those Ushopti. And was it overcasted? It was. That's going to be a shit ton of damage there, and is able to do a colossal amount of work there on that Bone Daddy army. And the capture weight does maintain. Empire Captain, Witch Hunter, and Gelt going to be fighting tooth and nail here. The Ushopti in weak binding. Necropolis Knights getting a little bit low as well as the Melee Shopti head over here. And what do we have for the Empire coming in? State Troopers and Swordsmen. Going to be very, very good. These guys will give a lot of buffering to those characters, and Spearmen with Shields will kind of counter most of the Tomb King's elements. Like, the Melee Shopti and them will have a bit of an even trade because of the bonus for his infantry, but the anti-large on the Spearmen going to be quite the chef's kiss. More Melee Shopti being called in. This objective is in flux right now. The Empire and the Tomb King's very, very close on points, as more Empire Knights are going to be called up. And how's Gelt hanging in there? One unit of Ushopti here about to crumble down. The Witch Hunter fighting hard. A couple Flagellants. And by couple, I mean quite literally like 5 Flagellants here fighting. Empire Captain does also provide this nice aura of hold the line, so it's going to be melee defense and leadership on those bad boys. And if the Empire can stabilize this objective, it's going to be pretty big. Probably going to see the Necropolis Knights Halberds go down, even though they will go out on their shield, dragging down some of these Empire Knights. And will the Spearmen make it on time? Man, they do. That's really rough. If the Tomb Kings had captured that, there's maybe a world in which they can target that objective long enough to win and fall back to their home point, but even still, I don't think so. I think it would have flipped pretty quickly with these bad boys coming in, because the Tomb Kings are calling out value trading units, whereas the Empire is calling out some like sustained capture weight here. Though Gelt does kind of get broken down. If he breaks, that's going to be brutal. State Troopers only have 60 base leadership, so obviously losing another -16 on top of that, with Gelt having been killed and or routed off the battlefield, would be pretty disastrous. And it looks like the Tomb King's going to be utilizing their dreaded horsemen. These swordsmen are not on the objective. That's a big problem. Driver definitely needs to force path them onto the point. He realizes this and is going to be force pathing them on. But yeah, this is what Tomb King's late game is all about. Light horsemen swarming over the battlefield, providing 4 capture weight. Empire does get its swordsmen right there, but it's getting a little bit sketchy, isn't it? Empire calling in Blazing Sun Knights, talk about a late game carry, and we do also see a couple State Troopers heading to the home objective of the Tomb King. That is the correct choice. Balthazar Gelt being chased off the battlefield by a 400 gold chaff unit is exactly what the Tomb King's player wants. Both these guys playing a really, really good game. I'm super impressed, man. They've been playing great. Blazing Suns, though, do peel those guys up. State Troopers going to be heading towards Objective Trace. And on the backside here, it looks like some Ushapti, I think, have been forgotten about. A huge mistake here for sure. Would want to get those guys back into the fight if they can. But the Blazing Sun Knights clear up that threat. The Empire Captain with the Hold the Ground aura. And also Grim Resolve. So we got leadership, 8 leadership coming from the Witch Hunter and the Captain. That's actually pretty badass for the Empire, man. Definitely going to help them hold. All right, Spearmen have arrived at the point. And the Skeleton Horsemen trying to occupy these Spearmen, but not going to be fighting a winning fight, while the Empire is going to be rather going for Objective 2, which they should have an easy time holding, probably. Although Tomb Kings, maybe could call it a couple of Nekar Horsemen, but even still, that's going to be a lot of capture weight. And yeah, the Tomb Scorpion, as fun as he is, did pretty good in his first life, man. I mean, honestly, 900 value on a Tomb Scorpion really isn't bad. Looks like the Knights of the Blazing Chad going to be hunting down the Chosen of the Gods. Meanwhile, over here, the Imperial characters trying to get through those melee Shopti, but those melee Shopti are causing a bit of havoc. Points are really, really close in this game, guys. And great play by Jim here, parking these horsemen on the side of the objective to contest the capture weight. Even though the Empire has more, it's going to buy time and maybe allow the Tomb Scorpion to come in and cause a little bit of havoc. Blazing Sun Chad's trying to get everywhere and deal with everything. Flagellant's going to be heading over to the point, while more Flagellant's going to be heading up. This could be an actually close game, especially if this objective does not flip. But 2 Spearmen will out-capture a Scorpion and a Horseman. That's 7 capture weight versus 10. And it is going to be flipping to the Sons of Sigmar. And those Spearmen should be more than equipped to fight the Tomb Scorpion. Although Terror could be a factor. Oh yeah, now that Gelt is gone, the Terror could come into play. We could see the Spearmen turn and run. I did not remember that Balthazar Gelt did get chased off the battlefield. So that is something to consider. So Blazing Sun Knights, though, slowly cleaning up everything here. Melee Shopti are bumping and grinding, while Flagellant's coming in for capture weight. And looking at the current victory tickets, we do see 2 victory tickets going to the Sons of Sigmar. But this objective could be in big danger. With Gelt being gone, the -16 penalty is pretty much the difference of those bad boys. Well, -10 now, but it was -16 for a moment. More Nolan Ironsides being called in to shoot some of the big boys. Flagellants and Blazing Sun Knights trying to fight through the armor here, but the Balthazar Gelt absence is really big. You can see these units that normally wouldn't break are sitting at 0 leadership for like a good 10 seconds here, but I think they'll stabilize. No, they actually break. Wow. It went up to 11 for a second, so I was like, oh, looks like they're chilling, but, you know, the Witch Hunter and that Empire Captain, they didn't hear no bell. So those bad boys going to be fighting for the point. And with the Flagellants as well as the Captain going there, it seems like the melee Shopti in the late game are giving the Empire a lot of problems. Another Demogryph Knight with Halberd would basically just end the game if he could come out. It would just steamroll these Ushapti and obviously these Light Horsemen as well. So on the backside, Ironsides and Double Spearmen coming in to replace. The Empire looks like they're going to be able to flip objective number 1 here, with the Flagellants arriving. And on the bright side, even though Flagellants do lose some of these fights, they stay. They do not run. So they're going to be fighting hard for Sigmar here and doing what they can. So critical binding, -7 leadership, Blazing Sun Knights going to be on their way in. Rear charging should break open that position. And with that being said, I think the game is pretty much over for the Tomb Kings. Even though they have a lot of mobility here, it's going to be impossible to get this point in time. With several units of somewhat healthy Flagellants, we have the Witch Hunter, and I don't know if the Empire Captain is still around. Yes, he is. That's such a cool combo, actually, right? Like the Hold the Line and Grim Resolve for the 8 leadership. I don't know if that was an intended aspect of this Empire player's build, but man, it ended up being really cool. So by the time the Tomb Kings are going to be able to get this objective, the Empire is going to be able to solidify objective number 3 with their Null and Ironsides and their Spearmen, and should have a complete grip on the game. And you can see the Tomb Kings are, trading well. Their Horsemen, their Tomb Scorpion, some of these bad boys maybe again, Ushapti coming from across the map, but overall, Sigmar has done it. He can win on 1 objective now pretty comfortably, and you can see these units just going to be dogpiling into the back point. And ladies and gentlemen of the old world, that is going to be all she wrote. The Flagellants, this guy really knew how to go out on a shield for Sigmar. He was like, oh, this is great, I love it, the Sigmar's with me. But, yep, he got the win. GG, what a great game. I don't know how the Greatswords did. I feel like they probably didn't do well. As expected, not super hot on the Greatswords. But, his opponent came into the quad Ushapti opening, which is a bit of a counter to those guys. Typically, Halberdiers might be a bit of a safer pick in this matchup, but again, I thought that was a really cool, interesting idea. And the Empire just won with sheer tenacity and pretty good cab momentum in the mid-game. The Blazing Suns and Empire Knights did well. And Dim did a great game too. He played really, really well. It was an awesome, even match by those 2 champions. I think when Dim got pushed back there and maybe lost a lot of his Ushapti momentum, maybe that was it. Maybe, but hard to say. All right, guys, see you around. Well played to these guys, and that's going to be it for today.